There's a lot of cases that I would like to get your input on. The first is the Kim Potter trial that's happening. Our sister Georgia Ford, she's out in front of the courtroom where it's taking place, and we were listening. She was telling us about some of the questions that are being asked, and I know that during the jury selection process, these are the types of questions that they ask. They want to see what type of attitude a particular juror is going to have towards the underlying issue. That doesn't make it sit well with me when they ask if you are familiar or do you support Black Lives Matter.
Right. Oh, my God. They did that in the last trials, too. I actually found that question infuriating, and I actually think it's improper. And in the last case, let me see, I think in the Rittenhouse cases and in the Ahmaud Arbery cases, those things were asked in the jury deliberations, too. And I found it infuriating because there was an implication that if you support this movement, you can't be objective at all, right? You are unqualified to sit on a jury. And also the problem with that, too, is Black Lives Matter is a huge movement. It's not like some small offshoot organization and a couple of people might support this and let's get them off the jury. It's the largest civil rights movement in the history of our country. So now every time we get a case where we barely ever even get police officers who kill Black people to trial, and now every time we get them to trial, they're going to actively try to wipe off anybody Black on the jury just wholeheartedly. And then God forbid anybody purports to be an ally of any kind, is supportive, sympathetic to the movement, just simply unable to be objective. It's an unreasonable inference. It wouldn't sit right with me either. I understand that for a defense attorney's purposes, you have to do your job, but nobody else has to like it.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And for that to be considered a part of due process and justice. And then I am thinking about, I would love to get your feedback on that closing argument. I know it's all tied together, but that closing argument in the Ahmaud Arbery trial where that defense attorney decided to attack Ahmaud Arbery down to his quote unquote dirty toes. And the reason I'm bringing that up in this context is because people kind of said, well, you know, she's got to give him the best defense that she possibly can. That doesn't
none
mean
of
I have
that.
to be okay with
None
it.
of that.
Yeah.
No, first of all, let's be clear. Let me just say something as a defense attorney. Beyond your moral objections, that's not the best defense you could give him. That does nothing to win over jurors. Let's be honest, right? There's a world, and I've said this before. If your argument is that these men acted, they acted under a reasonable belief, that at the time they believed that he was a robber or, that's why they were doing this. That's one thing to suggest that at the time they had this mistaken belief, but it was a reasonable belief. They acted on that and that's what happened, right? That's a different argument than, oh, they originally thought this, and despite no evidence to this fact, we're going to get up in this trial for this victim of murder and vilify them like the victim. That's actually insane as a strategy. As a defense attorney, you look at how the jury's going to feel about things, and you dictate how you talk about your victims, how you talk about the victims in the case, how you interact with them based on that. So this idea that in a case where a man was wrongfully, he was jogging, that's a fact, that's established. He's jogging, 3 men participate in this racial profiling, essentially hunt him down, kill him in broad daylight. Now his family, his mother is sitting in the courtroom, and you are you about his nails? You talking about his nails? That was the most morally bankrupt, egregious thing I ever did see, and it was outrageous that the prosecutor should have objected, but I let her rock just because I think she did a better job than a lot of these prosecutors I've seen in some of these similar cases in recent years. I let her rock, but she should have objected, and that was egregious.